Okay, let's just jump right into this explainer, because today we're looking at something that could honestly change how you view your entire daily routine. We're going to discover how Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's absolute classic, The Little Prince, isn't just a children's book. It's actually this profound, brilliant survival guide for dealing with the sheer, crushing exhaustion of modern adulthood.
I want you to really ask yourself something. When exactly did you stop playing and start managing? Because somewhere between being a kid and growing up, our mental space goes through this massive, kind of tragic shift. We trade the endless, open landscape of our imagination for, well, relentless to-do lists, right? We're constantly juggling bills, work deadlines, the daily grind. And our brains adapt. They become these incredibly well-trained managers, super efficient, super practical. But the catch? In the process, we totally lose our creative capacity.
Which brings us to part 1, the Desert of Adulthood. You see, the research points out that our minds literally get hijacked by all this responsibility. It's not like adults suddenly lose the ability to be creative overnight. It's more that our prefrontal cortex just gets stuck in the on position. We become highly efficient, sure, but creatively completely bankrupt. Saint-Exupéry actually captures this perfectly right at the beginning of the story. Remember the drawing? When presented with it, the ossified, numbers-driven adult mind looks at it and sees a highly practical, lumpy hat. But the imaginative child looks at those exact same lines and sees a boa constrictor digesting an elephant. As adults, we become so obsessed with just the literal, surface level of things.
And the extreme end of this adult obsession with pure absolute utility is summed up perfectly by the number 53. Now, in the story, the little prince meets a merchant selling these thirst-quenching pills. And why take a pill instead of just, drinking water? Well, simply to save exactly 53 minutes a week. But the prince realizes this is entirely backwards. He says he would rather spend those 53 minutes enjoying a slow, mindful walk toward a fresh spring. We do this all the time as adults, don't we? We constantly buy into these little shortcuts that save us time, but they end up draining the actual meaning right out of our lives.
So let's look at part 2, the loss of deep wonder.
To figure out how to survive this modern exhaustion, philosophers and educational theorists have pinpointed the root of our burnout down to the loss of a very specific mental state. Take philosopher Anders Schinkel, for instance. In his academic work, he explores how we often tell ourselves, hey, as long as I'm still curious, I'm doing fine. But Schinkel argues that there's a huge, critical difference between mere curiosity and genuine, deep wonder.
So here's the difference. Curiosity is really just exploring within a framework we already accept. It's looking for concrete answers, solving existing problems. But deep wonder? Deep wonder is an entirely different beast. It's the realization that our understanding is fundamentally limited. It actually challenges the framework itself. In the book, the adults the prince encounters are incredibly curious about things like counting stars or mapping out geography, but they have absolutely zero deep wonder about what those stars or maps actually mean in the grand scheme of things.
Moving on to part 3, seeing with the heart.
Now, in the story, the aviator crashes his plane right into the vast nothingness of the Sahara Desert. This forced isolation essentially acts as a profound meditation. It strips away all the busy chatter and those endless to-do lists of the adult world. And it's exactly in this quiet, stripped-down space that the prince's friend, the fox, shares his famous secret. What is essential is invisible to the eye, meaning true, deep wonder and genuine connection. You can't quantify those on a spreadsheet. You can't count them up like that businessman counting his stars. They have to be perceived intuitively. You have to literally feel them with your heart.
Which leads to part 4, taming your creative process. So how do we actually rebuild our inner creative worlds when we are just bogged down by relentless adult obligations? I mean, we can't exactly all go crash a plane in the desert to find some peace and quiet, right? Well, writer Julia Townsend outlines some incredibly specific daily rituals that help loosen that tight adult control and let us access imagination almost on demand. We're talking about simple things like 10 minutes of daily sketchbook time with zero expectations, or writing stream of consciousness morning pages before your day even begins. You can apply creative constraints to forge new mental pathways, or even just dedicate 1 solid hour strictly to unstructured, totally unproductive play. These routines, they aren't about producing a masterpiece. Not at all. They're about creating a safe container for your mind so your unconscious can finally flow freely again.
And these daily creative habits connect so beautifully to the fox's definition of taming. In the book, to tame something means to establish ties, to commit your time, and to build a rhythm. Just like the prince has to establish this dedicated, patient, daily ritual with the fox to truly understand him, we have to tame our own minds. We absolutely must build these structured, dedicated routines to restore our inner child and literally invite wonder back into our daily lives.
Let's look at Part 5, Tending to Your Planet.
Once we manage to reclaim this deep wonder internally, the sources show us that it naturally translates outward into tangible stewardship. Think about the prince's daily routine on his tiny little home, asteroid B612. Step 1, he rakes his 3 volcanoes. Step 2, he pulls up the dangerous Baobab sprouts. And Step 3, he carefully covers his unique rose with a glass globe every single night to protect her from the cold. Scholars actually highlight this as the absolute perfect model of benign human intervention. It's not about dominating nature for profit. It's about carefully, respectfully tending to your physical environment every single day to ensure it flourishes.
And this routine reveals such a vital concept about discipline. See, the soil of his planet is infested with invisible seeds. Some of them are good seeds, like roses and radishes, but some are really bad, like the destructive Baobab trees. And if those are left unchecked, they will literally tear his tiny planet apart. It requires immense daily discipline to uproot those bad seeds the very moment they sprout. This is a super powerful metaphor, both for maintaining ecological balance in our physical world and for uprooting those invasive bad habits of pure adult utility that constantly try to crowd out our creativity.
Let's bring it all together in Part 6, Reclaiming the Invisible. When we synthesize all of these lessons together, the academic literature points out this absolutely fascinating paradox at the heart of the story. It's called connected singularity. When the little prince visits Earth, he finds a garden of 5,000 roses. And at first, he's totally devastated, right? Because he thought his rose back home was the only one in the entire universe. But then he realizes that his intense focus, his care for his one single rose, is exactly what makes her unique. Meditating deeply on a single element, just caring for one rose among thousands, actually serves to connect us to the vastness of the entire universe.
It's exactly like the fox wisely tells him, it is the time you have wasted for your rose that makes your rose so important. So the absolute crucial takeaway from this explainer is this: that dedicated, seemingly unproductive time, whether we're giving it to our creative practices like our morning pages or meticulously tending to our physical environment, that quote-unquote wasted time is exactly what gives our adult lives deep, profound meaning.
So as we wrap up this explainer today, I really want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. What invisible seeds are waiting to sprout in your desert? Are they the destructive baobabs of endless stress, hypermanagement, and ruthless efficiency? Or are they the beautiful roses of deep wonder, imagination, and creativity? Because honestly, the choice of what you water every single day is entirely up to you. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey, and I highly encourage you to go out and reclaim your deep wonder starting right now.